Hello and welcome to Tricks of the Astray channel. Today is the 29th of August 2017, and in today's video we have a curious case of Caroline Cozy, a curious case of Klinefelter disease to be actual, to say it right though, because we hear a lot of stories, especially there are some very delusional people out there who say that Klinefelters can actually affect a man such that it makes the man look like a woman. So we have a curious case of Caroline Cozy, who went by the name of Tula. He was a supermodel because Caroline Cozy is very open about her being a male and that she transgendered to a female, and she was an extra in one of the James Bond movies called For Your Eyes Only, featuring Roger Moore. So the reason why we're looking at Caroline Cozy today is because he's not under transvestigation, but it's just to put to test the fact that a lot of people who try to, especially the Vatican out there, who tries to deceive people into making them think that Klinefelters is a reasonable case for transgendering people. So we're going to put that to the test today, and also I'm going to attempt to answer another question on this particular video. The question is, and which troubles a lot of people, because if you grew up like me trying to understand life, you always ask yourself this question: why are we here in the earth? Why are we here? It's one question that bothers a lot of people, because when you go around you and you see what's going on in your world, you tend to ask that question and you try to get answers. You try to make sense of life. And so I'm going to attempt to answer that question here today, and so that it can help somebody else out there. I'm not going to say that what I'm saying is definitely going to be correct or not. It's just an attempt to answer that question, to give you maybe some sort of direction so you could actually understand your world a little bit better. Now, I've spent a lot of time talking up to this point, but if it's your first time on our channel, I'd like to welcome you. But before you go any further, I would advise that you pause this video right here and go look for the primer video on this channel. I'm going to show you how to get to the primer video. It's very important. It's very important that you watch the primer video first before you continue further on with this video. Because if you don't, a lot of the things that I'm saying is not going to make any sense to you. You're going to have too many unanswered questions, and you're probably going to be asking me questions that I have already answered before. So I'm going to point you in the direction of the primer video for you to watch first. So here is the primer video on this channel. It's going to be the oldest video on the channel. It's called Primer. If you can see it with my mouse hovering it right now, when you click on this particular video, okay, here's the video, right? The primer. Did I click on the primer video? Sorry, hold on. Let me show you how to get to the primer video again. Okay, sorry about that. So we're back in the primer video. If you had clicked on it as I showed you before, sorry for that little mistake. When you click on this video, there is a link attached to it. All right. Now, this link is attached to every other video on this channel. If you're looking at it, I'm hovering over it right now with my mouse. You click on this link, it will take you to a document. The document is called Male versus Female Visual Differences. It's a document that I advise that you should have, because it's going to show you the visual differences between male and female. It's not rocket science or fake science or none of that sciences that we're taught in schools, which is not really actual real science, but this is something that you can relate to. What do I mean that you can relate to? For example, you can take a look at yourself in a mirror. If you have somebody who could strip for you, male or female, then you take a good look also, and you can actually relate to these male versus female visual differences. Now, when you do that, you're going to be able to transvestigate anybody. So you don't have to come back to me and say, Tricks of the Astray, could you transvestigate somebody for me? I think this person is either male or female, or any of those questions. You will know for a fact if the person is the gender they claim. So it's very, very simple. Now, the document is about 44 pages long, but I guarantee you it will take you like 30 minutes or less to go through it. It just has a lot of pictures. So do that, and then you can come back and continue watching this video. But from henceforth, right now we're into the we're not really doing a transvestigation. We just want to pick up a case of klinefelter's disease syndrome as the Vatican and as the world has made us to believe, and the people who teach us, and just actually take a good look at it and see if it can stand up to the test, in that klinefelter's can change the skeletal structure of a male to a female. So for example, the male hip joints are above his crotch, right? The female hip joints are below the crotch. So if someone is suffering under klinefelter's, or maybe somebody is taking hormones, we're going to put that to the test as well, just to show you. Because some people say that people taking hormones at a very early age can change the hip joints. So we're going to put that to the test and see if someone on klinefelter's disease, or taking hormones as the case may be, might change the person's skeletal structure. That means if you're a male and your hip joints are above the crotch, as the case is it going to make the hip joints to be below the crotch? And if you're female, if you're taking hormones or anything else, is it going to change the hip joints? That means a female's hip joints is below her crotch. Is it going to make it to be above the crotch and make her look like a female? So those are some of the questions that we're going to answer on today's show. But we're knee deep into the document, so I just have to scroll down just to show you that I have just to show you that a female always has an arch in her back. So you have a female to my left, and as you can see, she has an arch in her back. The arch starts just below the shoulder blades and starts dipping. Before it gets into the navel, it turns into the pelvis. The reason for the arch in the back is because, one, a woman is going to carry children, and so that's extra support for the weight of carrying children. Secondly, a woman's spine is very, very flexible. It's all that is because of childbirth. And thirdly, her pelvis is tilted forward, so the arch in the spine has to accommodate all of that. So there's always going to be a C-shaped arch in a woman's spine, or an S-shaped arch in the spine, depending on where you draw it from. Now, males don't have an arch in their spines, all right, or arch in their back, as the case may be. Males have straight backs. If a man's back wants to arch, he's going to arch outside, and it's going to be shaped like a D or a P. If a man tries to put an arch in his back, it's going to create weird angles, because you have to understand that the difference between a male and a female body is that female create soft oval shapes in every section of their body. So when a woman, you can tell when a woman works, she walks in a, it's soft and gentle. Everything about a woman is soft and gentle. Everything about a man is hard and harsh lines, all right? As you're going to see today in a curious case of klinefelter's with Caroline Cozy, or Tula, as the case may be, that we're going to present to you. So I scroll further into the document just to show you that a woman's back is always going to arch more than that of a male, because her spine is much more flexible. If a woman arches her back outwards, it's going to arch much more that it looks like a humpback. If a female arches it inwards, it's going to arch much more that it looks like you'll see this deep C-shaped arch in her back. Now, it doesn't matter if the woman has muscles or not. She's taking any form of supplements or testosterone or anything else, or as the case might be, she's always gonna have an arch in her back, except she's had some sort of accident, all right, which maybe makes her vertebrae to be a little bit malformed. It doesn't matter what size the woman is. Like I'm showing you right here, there is a big female to my left. As you can see, there's an arch in the back, and her pelvis is still tilted forward. A small female to my right, arch in the back, and her pelvis is still tilted forward. A muscular female right here, this woman is lifting a lot of muscles, and probably she's on some sort of a testosterone supplement. So that is one of the examples that I'm going to use, because when people say that taking hormones, especially with people before they hit puberty, that it can change the skeletal structure and make a female to have a male skeletal structure, or the opposite of the case may be. Now, what they forgot to tell you guys was that Hormones are taken on a daily by bodybuilders all around the world, and it's never ever changed via skeletal structure. The skeletal structure of a male bodybuilder is still the same. The skeletal structure of a female bodybuilder is still the same. So when these guys try to put out fake signs to you, you probably hear it on a lot of YouTube channels, then you should tell them that we see bodybuilders who take the same hormones that transgenders take every day on a daily basis, and it hasn't changed their skeletal structure. So if that hasn't changed the skeletal structure of bodybuilders, you need to ask them the question: are you trying to say that the hormones know the difference between a bodybuilder and a regular transgender person, such that it can know, okay, this is a bodybuilder, so I'm gonna go change his skeletal structure. Oh, sorry, this is a transgender, I'm gonna go change his skeletal structure. And this is a bodybuilder, oh no, I can't change the skeletal structure of a bodybuilder. Then that's how you know that's fake science. So it's something that I'm going to prove today to you guys. And there's another muscular female right here in this picture. As you can see, she still has an arch in the back. So let's go further. So I move you over to a video which shows you where a female's hip is at, because this is standard anywhere in the world. This is how a woman fits into clothes. Now somebody left me a comment and said that I'm comparing a black woman to a white woman, and that the black woman is much more different in the sense that we all know that black women are usually going to be curvier because of their melanin content to anybody who's an albino or white, as the case may be. But here's a question they never answer, because these people are very, very deluded who leave this kind of comments. When you walk into a store, if you're a woman and you want to buy clothes, is there any section in the store that says this is for only white women and this is for only black women? I need somebody to answer that for me. And I'm sure the answer is going to be no. All stores sell female clothes, and they shape the female clothes based on how they have measured where the female hip is at. And this is how it's measured with this video I'm going to play to you. So I played the video for you to see how a female's hip is being measured. As you can see, the tape's going to go around the widest point in the woman's body usually, which is always going to be her hips. Now, one thing you guys have to notice is this, because some people will say, oh, because some people have much more bigger hips and some people have smaller hips. Well, big or small hips is not the question here. The question is, where is the location of the hip joints in a female? It's always going to be below the crotch. So it doesn't matter if the female has wide hips or small hips or narrow hips, the location of the hip joints is always going to be below the crotch. Simple. So when these delusional people try to confuse you, you should let them know that. So I finished this video off, and let's see, you can see right there that it's below the crotch, and the female turns around and you see that the widest point is slightly above the bum line right there. It's just slightly above it, but below the crotch. So let's keep going further into Caroline Cozy. Now, before I get into the subject of Caroline Cozy, this is the point that I put out warnings, okay? For a warning on this particular video is that if you're gonna label someone a transgender, I have to put this warning out on every video, because some people ask me and say, okay, I talk too much, that I should quit talking about this same things that I repeat on every video. But the people who leave this kind of comments are very, very deluded, because if someone is a new sub on the channel, the person is not gonna know which video. I can't tell for sure which video the person is gonna watch. So I have to put up the warnings on each and every video, because somebody might just watch one video and that's it. So how can I tell which video? So if somebody says I keep repeating the same stuff over and over again, these people are very, very deluded. If they can sit through a video that's free, and they can sit through a video that they pay for in a movie theater, which actually teaches you nonsense, actually teaches you nonsense all through, and the person that you're watching can talk for like 2-3 hours, and you can't hurry the person up to say, can you just get over with the movie and tell me what the mystery is about? And then they expect that I should not talk. I should just hit the nail on the head because it's a free video. See how deluded those people are? If you're that kind of person, this is not the channel for you, because like I always say, this is not a transgender channel. Even though we feature a lot of transgenders, it's an education channel to show you the power structure that runs the world. Okay, so that's why I have to put this warning in effect. If you're going to label someone a transgender on this channel, you have to supply facts. Back up your statements. If you can't prove it, don't say it. Okay? There is no slandering allowed. You have to show with facts based on the female skeletal structure that this person is a transgender, because a woman's skeletal structure is designed to give birth, and that's what differentiates between the sexes. The skeletal structure is what differentiates between the sexes. Remember that. So you have to follow up your comments with showing that the person that you're transvestigating or calling a transgender has hips below the crotch, has an arch in the spine, has a wide pubic arch, or that the pelvis is tilted forward. You have to show with pictures, in links of videos, all right? Otherwise, your comments are going to be deleted, or you'll be blocked from making any further comments on the channel. Now, that's just the one warning I want to put up, because I don't intend to make this a very long video. It's just going to be a short, well, I can't really say it. It could be long, I don't know, but as the case might be, if you can sit through it, that's fine. So the next thing I love to say, as usual, by now that you guys know that we are not against transgenders. We are not judging anybody that's a transgender. It's a free world. We don't pay your bills, okay? We can't judge you, all right? Do what you want. God gave you the right to mess up your life any type of way. We are not going to get in the way. So do what you want. What we're merely exposing here are people caught in a lie. But in the case of Caroline Cozy, she's not caught in a lie. We just want to put up the klinefelter syndrome up to test and see if it does pass the test, that a person with klinefelters can have a different skeletal structure that makes it look like a female, because klinefelters is usually associated with males. So we want to put that up to the test, all right? So that's what we're all doing on this channel, just exposing the fact, all right, that people are caught in a lie pretending to be a sex and gender that they claim when they're not. And also, as usual, the people who are behind the organized transgendering of children, as you will even see today in today's case of Caroline Cozy, is the Vatican. They haven't changed. They are the people in the organization of anything that is affecting your world and having impact in your world. Okay? These are the people behind it. The Vatican. They control everything. They own everything by proxies. So I want you guys to know that, not the Jews. The Jews are a farce. They are a cover-up for the Vatican. So remember that. So let's get into the video with Caroline Cozy. So Caroline Cozy is a supermodel. She was born male. I'm trying to put it right. And her name, now, like I've said before, this is not a transvestigation. We're just trying to put up a test to see if the klinefelter syndrome that they talk about can actually change the skeletal structure. We want to put that up to test, and we have a viable candidate in Caroline Cozy, who is not a liar. I have to repeat that again. This man is not a liar, all right? He hasn't hit under the fact that he's a woman or anything else. He boldly shows you and tells you that he was born male, transgendered to a female, because he had Klinefelter's disease, all right? Well, I'll leave it up to you guys to see what Klinefelter's, if it is actually true or not. But I'm going to show you all the tricks of the trade to see how the Vatican works its ropes, okay? So Caroline Cozy is not under transvestigation. We are not calling him a liar. He's boldly declared that he's a transgender, all right? Okay, so I want you guys to remember that before you keep on watching the video. Now, Caroline Cozy was born, as you can see here, Barry Kenneth Cozy, all right? Was born 31st of August 1954, all right? Was born in Brook, Norfolk, England. Now, the other names that Caroline Cozy has gone under is called Tula, all right? And he's about 6 foot tall. And you can go read up Caroline Cozy on this web page, or you can go look up her his stats. Right? I'm confused between calling it him or her, so pardon me. Okay, bear with me. Now it says Caroline Tula Cozy, born 31st of August 1954, is an English model. She's one of the world's best known. Let me put it right. He's one of the world's best known trans women, having appeared in a James Bond film and having been the first to pose for Playboy. So way back in the day, Caroline Cozy posed for Playboy. You can know the nonsense that the Vatican puts up for you to watch. Right? Since being outed by British tabloids News of the World, Cozy has fought for his right to legally marry and to be recognized by the law as a woman. Okay. Now, the one thing I want you guys to notice in this particular web page, let me just give you some much more information about Caroline Cozy. It says Cozy was born in Brooklyn, Norfolk. Through puberty, Cozy was distinctly feminine in appearance due to a variant of an intersex condition known as klinefelter syndrome, where instead of having the XY male chromosome pattern, she possesses the genotype XXXXY. But this is all false signs. All right. I'm going to show that to you in a minute, but just for the sake of reading, we just read that. Now let's read back into the page. Let's just scroll down to the page a little bit further so you guys can see something that I want you guys to take notice of. Okay, so this is the part of the page that I want you guys to take notice of, because the details are always in there to show you how the Vatican manufactures things to control your reality. Okay, it says Cozy started transitioning after befriending a post-operative trans woman. By 17, Cozy was receiving hormone therapy. 17, all right, living full-time in a female gender role, and had begun a career as a showgirl at a London nightclub. Despite initial shock, Cozy's parents were eventually supportive. Following breast augmentation surgery, Cozy worked as a showgirl in Paris and as a topless dancer in Rome. Who resides in Rome? Can you see how this story goes now? Was a topless dancer in Rome. Who resides in Rome? The Vatican. All right, so they found a viable candidate to use to make people, to work on the minds of people to accept transgenders as the norm. And this case has been in operation since a long time, because if you watch the primer video, I can show you that this has been going on for centuries. It's nothing new. All right, but as the case may be in a modern world, you could know that way back in the day, by the time you had the movie called For Your Eyes Only, the idea of featuring transgenders was always there, as I'm going to show you. So let's move further. So before I go any further, I want to make you guys read what Klinefelter syndrome is. You're gonna actually, when I'm done reading this stuff, you're gonna actually see that this is fake science, that there is no such thing as a Klinefelter syndrome as they've made you to believe, because the Vatican always has a way of inventing stuff that is gonna change and mold your reality. All right, they have various ways of doing that. The control mechanisms for propaganda and all that stuff to control your reality and control your mind, okay, so that you can willingly accept whatever they dish out to you. All right, there's a lot of fake science going out there, and you guys have to understand that. Just like the curious case of Siamese twins. Do you think that Siamese twins actually exist? All right, I think they're manufactured. They're manufactured in a lab and made for us to believe. All this is going towards, trying to confuse the gender so that people can say you're intersex. Because Siamese twins is a curious case of being intersex, right? Is it male or female? Does it make sense? So, or they say hermaphrodites. It's all invented in a lab. These things do not happen organically. I want you guys to know that. All right. So let's keep reading into Klinefelter's. Now it says here, Klinefelter syndrome, K is also known as 47XXY or XXY. Now I want you guys to take note of that, because a lot of people don't know the difference between 46, wouldn't know the difference when they say 47XXY. But as we read into this particular page, you're going to understand what that means. All right. Okay. It says here is the set of symptoms that result from 2 or more X chromosomes in males. That's probably a lie. That's a lie. I'm not saying probably. It's a lie. But let's keep reading just for the sake of reading. The primary feature is sterility. So now they're telling you some truth. The main problem, what is called Klinefelter's, the main feature, the primary feature, that means the basis. Remember, there's a difference between primary and secondary. A secondary is based on the primary. The primary is the foundation. Sterility. Okay? That means anybody with klinefelters is sterile. So is it possible that males can be born sterile? Yes. Okay, let's keep on reading. Often symptoms may be subtle and many people do not realize they are affected. Sometimes symptoms are more prominent and may include weaker muscles. Now they're giving you all the true facts now, right now, that it may include weaker muscles, greater height, poor coordination, less body hair, smaller genitals, breast growth, and less interest in sex. Often it is only at puberty that these symptoms are noticed. So that means someone with Klinefelter's disease, something happens to him at puberty. It could be maybe he's sick, he has a genetic defect, or it could be he's taking some sort of he's chemically imbalanced in maybe the food they're consuming based on how their mothers, all right, had them through conception. All right, does it make sense? So it's always the parents in most cases who are to blame for how the children come out, because if they're not living healthy lifestyles and they're eating wrong foods and taking a lot of carcinogenic substances into their body, it does affect the fetus. All right, it is not going to be growing properly. All right, so it says that it's at puberty that a lot of these things are noticed. Then it continues on. It says intelligence is usually normal. However, reading difficulties and problems with speech are more common. Symptoms are typically more severe in 3 or more X chromosomes are present. There's no such thing as 3 X chromosomes, as we're gonna see. Now, remember, I told you guys to remember the 47XXY they said right here. We'll get back to that sooner. So it says Klinefelter syndrome usually occurs randomly. An older mother may have a slightly increased risk of a child with Klinefelter syndrome. Now they are starting to tell you the truth. All right? That means women, older women, all right, getting pregnant would have a more chances of coming out with a child that's not right. So you start seeing the truth in the lies that this guy tells you, right? The Vatican tells you. So I want you guys, when you read, you start noticing that. Okay, so he says the condition is not typically inherited from one's parents. Now they're throwing in another lie. They told you the truth first, then they told you another lie. They said the condition is not typically inherited from one's parents. So where did the child inherit it from? Where did he get it from? Okay, because they told you in the first place that Klinefelter, the child is born with the 47XXY chromosomes that causes Klinefelter. So where did he get it from? Didn't he get it from the parents? You see how these people tell you lies? I just want you guys to notice that. So let's keep reading. It says here, where did I stop? Let me see, where did I stop? Okay, I stopped right. He says the underlying mechanisms involves at least one extra X chromosome in addition to a Y chromosome, such that there is a total of 47 more chromosomes rather than the usual 46. Oh my goodness. So they're saying, okay, let me just break this down to you guys. Now, it takes 46 chromosomes. So that means when a mom, according to science, it says when your dad and your parents get together, in order for you to come out, the dad has XY chromosomes. The mother has XX chromosomes. So the father is going to donate 26. Am I saying 26? Is that right? Sorry, did I say 26? Wrong. The father is going to donate 23. All right? 23 XY chromosomes. The mom's gonna donate 23 XX chromosomes. Now, if the father, all right, donates 23 of his X chromosomes to the mother's 23 XX chromosomes, what comes out is a woman, XX, okay? Now, if the father donates 23 of his Y chromosomes, all right, and the mother donates 23 of her own XX chromosomes, what comes out is XY, which means male. Okay? Now, these guys here, the Vatican is lying now and telling you that there is another one extra chromosome. So the question is, where is this one extra chromosome coming from? That's when you find out that there is a lie being told, because the father can only give 23 and the mother can only give 23. So where did the father or the mother get the extra 1 from? And then that's when you realize it's fake science. So that's just what I wanted you guys to take notice of. And let's continue on to Caroline Cozy. Remember, Caroline Cozy is not under transvestigation. This is not a transgender video, okay? He is not under any form of transvestigation. We're just trying to put the curious case of Klinefelter's disease to bed as fake science. All right, so now what you're looking at right now is the year that this movie For Your Eyes Only came out. All right, and let's see the particular year. It was released on 24th of June 1981. So I want you guys to see that this thing, the Vatican, has been working a long time without you guys knowing. All right, so you can go look up the movie For Your Eyes Only, and you can read up all on it. Now you have to note one thing I just have to make you guys understand also is that Caroline Cozy was not like a main character in the movie. I mean, he had less than, I think, 2 minutes of feature, which I'm going to show you. He had less than 2 minutes of it. He didn't feature for that long, all right, in the movie. So it wasn't like he was a main character. Had maybe up to like 10 minutes. It was a very, very short clip of Caroline Cozy. And I'm going to show you that right now. So I'm going to play the clip of Caroline Cozy, and here is the clip of her in the movie For Your Eyes Only. It was a very, very short clip, so you guys wouldn't actually have noticed. But we could, Caroline Cozy is just gonna walk, because this is him right here. He's gonna work from this end of the pool down to this other end, and that's it. That was the only time he featured in this movie, even though he was featured in a lot of magazines as a supermodel and everything else, all right? And we're going to show you that all in a while, okay? So let me play this clip, and then I can come back and continue talking. So that's Caroline Cozy walking right here, down, and that's it. Caroline Cozy is not this woman here. It's this woman. Oh, this man, sorry to say. So this is not Caroline Cozy, because this is a woman with very female hips. As you can see right there, that you can see that the arms of this woman are following the contours of the body. Her hips are below the crotch, and the way she walks from side to side is the female gait. All right. Here is Caroline Cozy over here. So this is Caroline Cozy, not this woman. So you guys shouldn't be confused. Okay. So let's move on further. So the next clip I'm gonna play is a clip of Caroline Cozy talking, okay? When you actually hear this man talk, you're gonna know that it's a man, all right? Regardless, that's the picture. And this was, you can see right here that it was on Fox television in Australia. So the Vatican has been hard at work trying to put transgenders in front of you, trying to make men to lust after men, all right? They've been at work for a very long time. So I'm going to play this video, and you're going to hear Caroline Cozy talk, and you're going to know that this is a dude talking. So let's go.
Painful for me being trapped as a woman living inside a man's body.
Caroline's family supported her from the moment she walked through the door and reintroduced herself.
She came home and her hair was long and beautiful and her face looked gorgeous, and she looked all woman. I mean, there's no way you could think that was Barry. No way. It was just wonderful.
For the Cossey family, there was never any trouble adjusting. They understood that Barry's transsexuality was caused by a chromosomal defect, which meant he wasn't completely one sex or the other. To them, it was obvious which sex he should be.
She was so soft and so girly with me. I mean, we shared our dolls together. There's no way she was a brother.
catching up here.
Like two sisters, Pam and Barry had always dressed up in their mother's clothes, and both grew up to become models.
And she's always advised me and helped me, funnily enough, with various dresses, makeup, hairstyles, clothes and everything. She's just incredibly feminine.
Lovely. That's lovely.
Caroline's career was launched as Tula, and in no time at all the 6-foot model was in constant demand.
For me, it was such an ego thing. I mean, I needed that as an ego boost.
There was even work in the glamorous lineup of Bond girls in the film For Your Eyes Only, but Caroline underestimated the risks of her exposure. The press refused to accept Tula's success at face value. They kept digging for years, and when they finally revealed her secret, they ruined her career.
It took off sort of the angle of being of a freak value. I didn't discuss my sexuality, and I don't think it was anybody's concern.
She didn't.
So as you heard right there, Caroline Cozy talking, you could actually know that this is a man talking, all right? So I just wanted you guys to know the face from a video perspective, and then we're going to move on to some other pictures. But I have one more video I want to play to you guys to see that the Vatican has been deep at work trying to portray men as females to you. And this is one of their stooges, Arsenio Hall. Now, Caroline Cozy, also known as Tula, was a special guest on Arsenio Hall's show way back in the day. I think that's prior to maybe let's say a few years after 1981, and prior to it or before it, after the movie For Your Eyes Only with James Bond featuring Roger Moore. So I'm gonna play this video clip just for you to see how even though Arsenio Hall, this was when the Vatican actually did a little bit of this was like the prelude, because first of all, they started off by at least telling you this person is transgender, just working on your mind just to accept this person, because they've worked on it surgically. It almost looks like a female, which we are going to put to the test today. We're going to put to a test today to show you if the skeletal structure has changed because of klinefelters, all right? So I'm going to play this clip, then I'm going to come back and we're going to talk some more.
Yes, we're back. My next guest was born a boy. But now through surgery has become a woman. Yes. Please welcome transsexual supermodel, Tula. Tula, you're taller than I expected you to be. You're a very tall woman.
Yes.
How tall?
5'12" without my shoes, but 6'4" with my shoes.
Wow. Okay. I like pumps, and I just wanted to see what kind of shoes you were wearing. At what point in your life did you realize that there was something different about what you felt inside?
I think it's sort of early as on sort of 4 and 5, actually, because I sort of didn't fit in, and my brother was sort of playing all the masculine games, and I wanted to sort of do all my sister's sort of games and things, so I felt sort of, what's wrong with me? And my dad was a very heterosexual man, and he was sort of pushing me into all the male things, but I just it didn't feel right.
Yeah. Did you ever have sex when you were a man?
So I paused the video right here there because I don't think it was a discussion that is necessary on this particular video, because you can see how the Vatican tries to play mind games with people, trying to soften your stance so that you can accept things that you normally wouldn't accept by asking those kind of methodical questions like Arsenio Hall just asked this dude if I don't even want to talk about it, but you guys get the picture because I paused it right there and there. So I just wanted to show you that the Vatican has been hard at work, because what they do is gradual. They make people to gradually accept evil as the norm. All right, they started off by showing you that, okay, this person is a transgender. Then right now they're falling off the deep edge by not even, because now they've worked on people's minds to accept it, such that they don't think they have to tell you the truth or even try to insinuate that this person is a transgender, as the case might be in so many of the transgenders that are out there today. So I wanted you guys just to notice that, and then let's move on. Okay, so what's on the screen right now is a female bodybuilder. So I'm trying to dispel the fake science that hormonal change can change, or sorry, that hormonal drugs, all right, that transgenders take can change the skeletal structure if, for example, the person takes the drugs before puberty. All right. And like I said before, no matter the drugs you take, it's not going to change the hip position of a female to that of a male, or vice versa. It's never going to change. And so what the Vatican or so many other YouTube channels try to put out there to confuse you, which are all Vatican own, is that depending on the drugs before puberty, that the person can change into a different sex. What drugs do? What drugs do change only the muscle and the skin. That's what hormonal drugs do. They change the muscle and the skin. They can't change the bones. They can't change the skeletal structure, because you have to understand this. If you're building a house, okay? Let's take, for example, you're building a house. If you build a house, you first of all have to put the foundation in. And the foundation for all human beings is the skeletal structure. Now, if you tamper with the skeletal structure, you tamper with the foundation of a house, the house is going to fall. That means the human being is going to die. There is no way to do that. Okay? So what these things do, what these drugs do, just change the outward appearance. So for example, you're looking at my screen right now. This is a female bodybuilder. Now, some females will take hormones, testosterone or any other drugs to build muscle, because that's a requirement for building massive muscles. All right, you have to have enough testosterone in your body. So that's an example. And they take stuff, they take other drugs like, there's a slew of drugs being taken by bodybuilders, from human growth hormones, which increases the muscle mass and muscle size, and testosterone, which helps you build muscle. And there's a slew of hormones, estrogen and everything else. All these hormones are the same hormones or drugs that transgenders take. So for example, here we're showing you a female bodybuilder who's definitely taken drugs to be the way that she's looking right now. Now, whatever she's doing is not going to change the skeletal structure. It's not going to move her hip joints from where it is, all right, to going upper, to be above her crotch. It's always going to be below the crotch. Now, what happens is that the muscle mass might be stacked so much that the way the female hip, as you see the curvy shape, may not be there because there is so much muscle fiber on top of it. But it's not going to change the hip position. All right? It's not going to change the hip position to make her male. Neither is it going to shorten her pubic arch. All right, so I just wanted you guys to take notice of that, because I'm going to show you another picture. All right, now here is a female bodybuilders. As you can see right there, these females still have an arch in their back. Can you see that? Arch in the back. Now, you may not see a lot of that hip protrusion from where it's supposed to be outside here on a female, because they have so much muscle, layers of muscle covering it up. But if she stands up properly, right, you will still see that the hip joints are still there. So when these guys try to give you facts and tell you lies to confuse you, because there's a lot of confused people, because there's a lady who actually was a sub on our channel, and then a few days ago she sent me an email saying that she's unsubscribed, that because I'm not listening to what she's saying, the fact that people can take, or children, or before they hit puberty, can take hormones, and that will change the skeletal structure, making them look feminine if they're male, and making them look male if they're female. And I told her that I don't have time for such fake science. I specifically called her and told her it's fake science. I'm not listening to it. Don't send me any more information. And she still sent it, but I'm not going to reveal her name, because as a gentleman's agreement, I promised that I wouldn't be talking about her name. But that's what she tried to do. But as you can see right here, there is no difference in the drugs that the bodybuilders take to the ones that the transgenders take. There's no difference. So here is a case. I'm picking up a female now who's taking so much drugs, all right, to build muscle mass, which is the same thing that a female transgender will do in trying to change to a man. It doesn't change the skeletal structure. It's always going to remain the same. As you can see here, arch in the backs of this female who are bodybuilders on so much. I mean, bodybuilders take more of these hormonal drugs than transgenders, because it's a sport. It's something they have to do every day. They have to live this way every day. They take more of it because they want to increase the mass more. So I just took a curious case of female bodybuilders to show you what happens. All right, the males take the same thing, but instead of taking it in the opposite way, they just increase their own quotas as men to look more muscular. Does it make sense? So that's just what I wanted to show you guys before I move on back to Caroline Cozy. Now remember, Caroline Cozy is not under transvestigation in any way, shape, or form. We just want to take her pictures and see if her skeletal structure has changed since she said that, you know, I've just proven that the klinefelters is actually fake science. All right, as I've just shown you, to see if her klinefelters and the hormones, the added hormones that she took, or he took, sorry to say, has made the skeletal structure to change to that of a woman, or if the skeletal structure still remains the same as the male that Caroline Cozy was born with. Okay, so let's go. So I'm gonna attempt to answer two questions. Now, when I started the video, I said I would answer the question of why are we here? All right, that's the second question that I'm going to answer right there. Why are we here? But the first question I'm going to answer is Yehoshua, the person they refer to as Christ falsely and Jesus falsely, is he real? Now, the reason why I'm trying to answer this question, because I answered it because I was responding to a comment, all right, and I thought it necessary because nobody else is going to see the comment except maybe they go over there and look at the actual comment. And some people don't read the comments. You don't need to, all right? I just thought maybe I should share this with as many subscribers as possible and anybody else who's been asking this question. Now, the question on my screen, first of all, because it says, is Yehoshua, the person they refer to Christ, real or Jesus? And that if he's real, he would have been written about in more than one book. So that's the question I'm going to answer. Now, I'm just going to read out my question to you. Read out the answer so you guys can actually listen, because I typed it out so I wouldn't have to, you know, say it out from my memory, because I may have so many things going on in my mind right now while I'm making the video. So I just want to read it out because I wrote it out so you guys can actually hear the answer. So the question is Yehoshua real? And if he's real, how come? The person was asking, how come that he's been written about in only one book? So now, here is the answer. The Bible is not one book. It's a compilation of books written by several different people, not one person. So, for example, when you read the book of Genesis, the 5 books of the Torah, all right, which include Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, and Numbers. Those 5 books were written by, according to the Bible, by Moshe, or the person they call Moses. I'm trying to pronounce his name correctly. All right, Moshe. So now, those were 5 books written by Moshe, and those books that Moshe wrote was based on other different books that he got. So for example, there was a book written by Enoch. There was a book written by Adam and Eve. There was a book written by Noah. Okay? So there were so many compilations of books. So the Bible is not one book, as people might come to understand. So I just want to answer that first of all, that it's a compilation of books. And there are so many other books that are not in the Bible, which were written concerning to show you that Yehoshua is God Almighty, all right, or the Son of God. So that is the answer that I wanted to answer. And then I'm just gonna, then the next question the person asked me was, now this is a question that a lot of people will ask. Should I actually type it out? Let me type out that question first, so you guys can actually know that this is what I'm answering when you listen. So this is more like it's more like the question here is more like it's a mixed kind of question, but you guys can get the meaning just by looking at it. But in order for you to understand my response, I picked up a part of that question to read to you guys, and then answer as I responded, because like I said, I typed everything down so I wouldn't forget. So I could, because at that point in time I think I had the precise answer to give, so I'm going to read it word for word what I said. Now the question here says, my ancestors called upon him but he never answered. So this is in relation to people saying that people say they've prayed to God, because there are a lot of people out there who have prayed and they've never had an answer. So for example, you've prayed for a loved one who was sick and the person died. You asked for so many things and you didn't get it, and so you probably think there is no God out there. All right, now continuing on with the question, he said, and I guess it's funny how every other race has a deity that looks like them, but we have a white hippie dude. Now we don't have a white hippie dude, because if you've watched the Myth of Whiteness series, you get to understand that the world, or people in general as a whole, is one black human race. That being white is a myth, is a case of albinism. So if anybody's interested in that, you should go look for the Myth of Whiteness playlist on this channel and watch it. Please pause the video at any time and repeat what I said so you can actually get it. Go look for the Myth of Whiteness playlist, in which I understand word for word, in which I explain word for word, so you understand that whiteness is a myth. There is no such thing as a white race. Okay, it's a politically what's the right? Is it politically incorrect if there is such a thing? But we have political correctness, so I don't think I'm saying it right. So it's actually very, very wrong. It's a politically created insinuation by the people who run the world today to confuse people that are around so that they can maintain a hold on power. All right, so it's a politically incorrect translation or race, so that the white supremacist Vatican who runs the world today can have a population who looks like them, so they can be the people who actually lay claim or lay rule to being the ones to rule us. I've said a whole lot of long sentence in there, but you can understand. So what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is that there is no such thing as whiteness. So there is no such thing as a white race. All right, it doesn't matter how they come, whether they are Asians, Mexicans, Hispanics, Europeans. There's no such thing as a white race. It's incorrect. It's not politically incorrect. It's incorrect. It's a political designation made by the people who run the world today, which happen to be the white supremacist Vatican, to breed a population to maintain themselves or keep them in power. That's what I just said. So let me go further on to the questions here. On my screen says, no way, that's a way to brainwash. I'm not going to read that. What the part I want you to notice is that it said a God that answers the prayers of those who want meaningless things, but in order to feed a child in Africa, you always see how we've been brainwashed to always think that Africa always needs feeding. It's just hilarious how the white supremacist Vatican has made people to believe that everything bad is in Africa. All right. But just for the sake, let me keep on reading. That it says, a God that answers the prayers of those who want meaningless things, but in order to feed a child in Africa, we have to pay 30 cents. So the question I'm trying to answer right here now is two things. One, that God is not a hippie white dude. All right. Next question is, because you do pray to God and God doesn't answer, is proof positive or evidence that there is no God? So it's more like three questions in one. All right. So if you're with me, I'm going to read the answer to you. So here's my answer, and I want you guys to listen. You can pause, rewind, fast forward, and just listen to this answer on those three questions. One, that praying to God and not having an answer means that there is no God. It's proof positive and evidence that God doesn't exist in this world. And that secondly, that Yehoshua, the person who's being referred to as Jesus or Christ, is white. So I'm going to answer those two questions as I'm reading right now. So listen. So here was my answer in response to this question. I said, it's pointless to argue with air. Just try not breathing and then you'll figure out it's real. Do you see air? No. Can you touch it? No. Can you catch it? No. Do I know how God operates? No. Has He answered all my prayers? No. Do I know why He decides and chooses not to say anything when you pray? No. So here's the continuation of the answer. It says, even the Bible says that during the time of the ancient Hebrews, He let them go awry, killing, defaming, raping, and pillaging themselves, and God did not say a word, did not even move a finger. Why? I do not know. Do you think those folks back then were praying to Him for help and did not get any? So the question is, the answer rather is, in the Bible, we've come up with so many scenarios in which people prayed. People were in trouble and they prayed and God never answered. So for example, in the book of Judges, if you read Judges chapter number 6 verse 13, an entire book of Judges, and also the book of 1 Samuel chapter number 3 verse 1, and you will see that people prayed to God. There was a time that God just didn't answer. He just let people do things the way they wanted. And that is the exact scenario that we have today. We have so many people praying to God, trying to help their loved ones, right? Or help themselves. And it seems God doesn't respond. So the normal thing that we do is to say that God doesn't exist, all right? But if you study your Bible, you will see that people prayed and didn't get answers. It doesn't change the fact that there is no God. So that's what I was trying to answer to this lady by telling her that, we don't see air, right? We can't catch air, all right? But arguing with it is pointless, because all you have to do is try not to breathe. And you're going to find out that air is very, very real. It's the same case with God. You might say He's not real. You might say you don't see Him. You might say He doesn't answer your prayers. The air doesn't do anything, but it's right there. All right? Arguing with it is pointless. Arguing about God is pointless. So I continue on to the next part of the question now. I'm going to talk about how the fact that Job, who even was a righteous man, and it is not about how righteous you are. That what am I trying to say? Some people think that God will bless you or God will answer your prayers if you're righteous. That means if you're doing right, keeping the commandments, and being good to people and every other thing, that God is going to answer your prayers and bless you. But that is a delusion. Because you guys, you have to understand that the Vatican, through its indoctrination centers, has preached a false God to us. They've made us believe that when you come to God, that everything is going to be okay. But that's not what the Bible teaches. If you look at the Bible, everybody who went to God had so much trouble. It seems like the troubles multiplied when they came to God. That's what the Bible shows, and that's what it teaches. It didn't get better. But there is always a hope. There's one thing you have to understand, that there is a hope for us, for people who say they believe in God. Because at the end, you always see that these guys were rewarded. And as the Bible says in Psalms 34 verse 19, that many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord God knows how to deliver them all from it. And there's one more thing about knowing God. It's about knowing truth. Because when there is nothing. What's the best way I can explain it? When you know truth and you've come to accept truth, there is nothing that will make you give it up. There's a certain joy and fulfillment from knowing the truth, from knowing who you are, knowing whom God is. All right? So that's just what I wanted to read to you guys. But let me just keep on reading so you could understand why I was trying to answer that question. That it doesn't really matter if you think you're righteous and you're doing right, that God is going to answer your prayers. It doesn't work that way. So I'm just going to continue reading my response to this lady when I said. Here's my response. I said, also, even Job, whom God declared righteous, went through so many troubles that we in this world could never imagine. For someone, right? Job went through so many troubles that we could never imagine for someone. God said he was pleased with Job, all right? And even then, God declared Job righteous. He said he was pleased with him. But Job went through so many troubles that none of us could ever imagine. I mean, he lost his whole entire family and whatever he had in a day. He was even sick in his own body in one day. None of us have gone through that. But here is somebody that God declared righteous, and he went through all that. So I continue reading to say that in my opinion, away from the false Christian doctrines preached in the indoctrination centers of the Vatican, when you come to God, you get more trouble. For example, Acts chapter number 14 verse 22. You guys can go look that up. And in 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 12. Right? That if anybody who's going to live in this world, he's going to have trouble. That's just fact. Now, I will answer the question of why we're here so people can really understand that better. Now it says, but I continue reading by saying, but there is always a hope that at the end it is rewarding. Psalm 34 verse 19. And there is nothing more rewarding than truth. Knowing, looking, and seeing. Coming to the knowledge of truth. You will not trade it for anything else. Now, why does God choose to behave this way and do so? Why does it seem that God doesn't answer our prayers? Why does he behave the way he does? When we come to him, it seems like we get more trouble. All right? So, part of answering that question is this. I say, I will never know. But here is the point. All right? If you are a painter and you're painting a picture, will the picture you paint be able to stand up and say, you painted me wrong? How did you create me this way? So what I'm saying is this. We will never know the answer of why God behaves this way, why he chooses not to answer prayers, why the world is so chaotic, why it seems like he's so far away from his creation. But the point I'm trying to make is this, all right? That it is not necessary to argue, because you have to think of God as a painter. The Bible completely says that. He's a painter painting. So if God is painting a picture and the picture is us, let's just take for example that you paint a picture. Will the picture you paint have anything to say against you? Can it bring up any argument that's valid? No. The painter has a right to paint the painting any type of way he wants. That is just fact. Now somebody might tell me, oh, so you saying that we are a painting, we're a picture? Yes, the Bible even says so. And let me show you where it says that in the King James Bible. Let me just point you in that direction right here. So I'm reading from the King James or Geneva Bible. I'm reading from 2 Corinthians chapter number 3. I'm reading from verse 2 to verse 3. In 2 Corinthians chapter number 3, King James or Geneva Bible, it says, "Ye are our epistle written in our hearts, known and read of all men. For as much as ye are manifestly declared to be the epistle of Yehoshua, ministered by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not in tables of stone, but in fleshy tables of the heart." So what does it say there? You can see right there that we are a painting, just like I described, all right? But not written with, ink, like the Bible says, but written by the Spirit of the living God in the flesh, in our hearts. So like I've said before, God, now some people might say that this sounds ridiculous. They just can't accept the fact that we are a painting and that God is the painter, and that a painter has a right over his painting to paint it any type of way. Because when you look at your world, there is so much going on. Like, for example, you see children dying prematurely, suffering, diseases. A child is born with an incurable condition, as the case might be. People are broken, dying. It doesn't look so nice, right? But we have to look at what the Bible says, that we are his painting. And let me show you another portion that's going to blow your mind. It's taken from Romans chapter number 9 in the King James or Geneva Bible. I'm reading from verse number 19 to 21. Remember, Romans chapter number 9. It says here, "Thou wilt say then unto me, why doth he yet find fault? Who had resisted his will?" Now, this is a question that Paul was trying to answer, in the fact that God raised up Pharaoh for destruction. All right? And so the question was, now, if God raised up Pharaoh for destruction, why is he yet angry that Pharaoh is doing what he was created to do? All right? So this is Paul trying to answer that question. It's very, very hilarious, but you guys can go read up Romans chapter 9. You can read from verse okay, let me actually read it so you guys can actually see it. I'm reading from verse 17, Romans chapter number 9. I'm going to read to verse 21. So I start from verse 17. It says, "For the scripture saith unto Pharaoh, even for this same purpose have I raised thee up, that I might show my power in thee, and that my name might be declared throughout all the earth. Therefore hath he mercy on whom he will have mercy, and on whom he will he hardeneth. Thou wilt say then unto me, why doth he yet find fault? For who had resisted his will?" So the question is, if God created maybe all this, maybe Satan, the devil, all these bad people, why is he yet angry at these people that they are doing what he created them for? I just have to laugh, because it's just like a catch-22. You created me. It's more like someone saying, you created me to be a TV. I'm doing the work on a TV, and yet you're mad at me that I'm doing the work of TV. So let's keep on reading to what Paul answers. Paul now says, okay, "Nay, but O man, who art thou that repliest against God? Shall the thing formed say to him that formed it, why hast thou made me thus?" So it's the same question I'm trying to answer here. Can a painting say to its painter, why did you paint me this way? The painting can't talk. It has no right. It can't even say anything. The only difference between the painting and us is because we have feelings. We actually live, we move, we can sense things, we touch. So that's the only difference. But in all truth, we are still a painting. Okay, so let me just keep reading, because I'll answer your question. So just hold on. Don't be in a hurry. I'm going to answer the question. It says, "Hath not the potter power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor and unto another dishonor?" So what he's saying, that a potter, just like I just said, a painter has has power over his painting. A potter has power over the pot he's making. He should be able to make it and form it in whatsoever way he wants to do. All right, and nobody should be able to ask him any question. The clay pot shouldn't say, okay, why are you making me this way or this shape? All right, he doesn't have any right to say that. He can't even talk. All what the clay pot just does is accept what the master wheeler is wheeling it into. All right. Now some people will say, "Oh man, I don't like that. You're saying that God can do it. Does he know what I'm going through and everything else?" Okay, hold on a second. I'm gonna answer your question all the same. All right. So the question now is, since we have come to the point that to understand, if you understand up to this point that we are a painting, okay, and God is the painter. Now, before I answer that question, okay, I'm still answering the question all the same, so I'm going to go further. So, some people find it very difficult to accept the reality of God because of the way things are and the way things are going on in their lives. Now, you may want to use that to say, okay, I don't believe in God. He's of no benefit to me. He doesn't answer my prayers. He doesn't do anything for me. But when you look at all the facts around you, and you look at the Bible, a wise man will look into the facts and know for a certain that God is real and he's not someone to be played with. Now, as a wise man that I am, I rather don't want to die, okay, in my unbelief, just because things are not going the way it's supposed to, or things are not adding up that makes sense that there is a God, because the facts around you and the Bible shows you clearly that there is a God. So instead of making that decision, all right, and going and dying along with it, it's better for you to be wise while you're living, because when you're dead, that decision is final. It's better while you're living to make the decision to say, okay, I believe in God, I believe in Yehoshua, and that is all that it takes for God to accept you. All right? So it's better for you to make that wise decision while you're living, because you don't know what's on the other end. If there is nothing else, let's just take, for example, all right, that people actually say there is nothing else after death. But you have never died to know that, if it's actually true or not. So is it not wise for you to make the decision while you're living here, right now, that you can make that decision instead of go dying and finding out it's real or not? Does it make sense? So that's just what I wanted to say before I go on to the question, because if you remember, there's a story Yehoshua talked about between a rich man and Lazarus, all right, and which that rich man died and went to hell and found that it was real, and was telling Lazarus that if they could send somebody to tell their brothers who were still alive, and Abraham said that if they don't, Yehoshua said if they don't believe the prophets that are right here, neither will they believe someone who comes back from the dead. And it is true. Yehoshua came back from the dead, and people still don't believe till today. All right. So you can read up that story on Luke. It's Luke chapter number 16, verse 19 to 31. Let me actually point you there. So you can read in the King James or Geneva Bible that particular story about the rich man and Lazarus dying. The rich man dying and Lazarus dying, to find out that hell and a life after is actually very real. You can read in Luke chapter number 16, and you can read from verse 19 downwards into that story. So now I've arrived at the point in which I have to answer the very next question, because all what I'm saying is summed up into another question that I have to answer. So the question now, if you've understood to this point that God is real, all right, he's not a white dude as the white supremacist Vatican makes us out to believe. And you can go read that up. Let me actually point you to that particular portion first before I go into answering this question. All right. So like I said before, I want to point you in the portion of the Bible that you should read to understand that Yehoshua was not a white dude. You can read from Revelations chapter number 1, and you can read from verse 14 to 15, and the operative word in reading, in reading this particular portion is the word burned. All right, burned. And brass. Brass is the same thing as bronze. All right, so you can go look up bronze statues and see what they look like. Most specifically, if you want to actually see what the color of a bronze statue looks like, look for the statue of Abraham Lincoln, because the white supremacist Vatican, who is very, very good at lying, will make some bronze statues look terribly different from what the actual color is, so as to confuse people to understanding that the nature of man is black. All right, and that we're one black human race, and that being white is a myth. So the operative word in reading this particular portion of the Bible is brass and burned. You have to understand, burned here means it's finished burning, because if it was burning, the Bible would say burning, but it says burned. That means past tense. So anything you burn that's burnt, all right, and is done burning, is black. All right. So the right word here would be that God is as black as night. Maybe that's the right word. If darkness is black enough for you, that's the way God looks like. Or charcoal. All right? That is his color, because according to the Bible here, he says, and his feet like unto fine brass, which is bronze, as if they burned. Burned means it's done burning. Past tense, as you can see right there, burned in a furnace, showing you the color of what God looks like. And he says his hair was white like wool, and as white as snow. White like wool, showing you the texture of the hair, which is like black, nappy, kinky hair, and white as wool to show you the color. The Bible is not stupid. If you wanted to say white as snow was the representation of what God looked like in his hair, he would have just said white as snow. But it says here his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow. White like wool, showing the texture, as white as snow, showing you the color. Gray hair, okay, or white hair. So to continue back to answering the question was, why are we here? Because if you, like I said before, if you heard me speak up to this point, and now you know, for example, that I've said that we are a painting and that God is the painter, all right? And the painting has no right to say, why are you painting me this way? Because in all natural sense, a painting can talk. Neither can a clay pot talk to the person who's making it and say, why are you making me this way? So God is the maker. We are the creation. So there is no way you can argue that case, because a painting cannot argue against its painter. The painter just paints. The painting is just there to be there, and the person paints. All right. So the only difference between the painting and us in all sense is because that we talk and we move and we feel. So we're slightly different from a real painting, but nevertheless, we're still a painting. So if you've come up to that point in which you have to understand that, you know, God is the painter and we are the painting, and then also you've come to understand that, okay, God doesn't answer all prayers, and that according to the Bible, when you come to God, things get more difficult. That's actually the truth, because if it's true, everybody who made God from the start of Genesis to the book of Revelation, right, they all went through a very hard time just for the fact that they knew God. So the question now you get to ask, okay, say, why is all this happening? So because it doesn't really make sense. So the only thing that's gonna make sense then is when you ask this question, why are we here then? All right, if all this is happening, then why are we here? So here is my attempt to answer this question, which a lot of people have been asking through centuries, days and years. Why am I here? Because we all found ourselves here, not of our own making. Does it make sense? We just woke up and we were here. All right. So the question is now, why are we here? Because if we can answer the question, why are we here, then everything else falls into place. And so here is the answer of the reason why we are here. Okay. The reason why we are alive and living in this earth today Now, here's one thing that I've studied so much. You know, I've tried as much as possible, because in my short years of living in this world, I've done so much study into understanding the reason why we're here in this earth, because a lot of things don't make sense at all. It doesn't make sense why a child should be born with a disease that cannot be cured and the mother has to suffer. It doesn't make sense that someone has to die young. It doesn't make sense that someone can get up in the morning and not come back home. It doesn't make sense that somebody doesn't have any food to eat. It doesn't make sense that some people have so much more than enough, and then they are still stealing from those who don't have, and still feeding themselves, and there is no justice. It doesn't make sense that we are being lied to at such a ridiculous scale that the mind, it boggles the mind. It doesn't, a lot of these things don't make any sense at all. So the question we always ask is, why are we here? Now, here is my answer after studying this for so long. The reason why we are here is because this world is a test. The world we live in right now is a test for something else. That is the reason why we are here. Because after studying the Bible, from the book of Genesis to the book of Revelation, what I've come to find out, something that is pertinent in every character in that book, is that they all went through a test. So, for example, Adam and Eve went through a test in the Garden of Eden. All right? Satan went through a test. The angels were tested. Noah was tested. Abraham was, and every figure in the Bible. And God even tested his own self. Somebody might say, that's weird. How did God test himself? In Yehoshua, who was God Almighty, the person who's being referred to as Jesus or Christ. So all these people went through a test. So that goes to show you that the world we're living in is a test. Now people might say, okay, if it's a test, then why are some people not tested as much as others? Now you have to understand that God is the one who determines, like I said before, he's the potter, or he's the painter painting, or the potter making the pot. So he has a right to test every one of us in any type of way he wants. Now some of the tests are very, very mild, and some of the tests are very, very severe. There are people who will not live through the test. They'll die in the test, as it's been shown in the Bible. There are people who will live through it. There are people who will keep living on this earth through the test. And some people may never come out of it. So the reason is, why is everybody being tested then? The reason is because if you study your Bible, there's always one scenario, the requisite for the test. The reason the test is administered in the first place is because God wants to know those who love him. That is just fact. If you read from the book of Genesis down to Revelation, you will see that. So because God wants to understand those who love him, because some people say, I love God, love God, love God. They just talk. But God is not interested in talking. He wants you to walk the walk. Now some person might say, this test is a little bit too much for me to bear. Well, you're never going to know how much you can bear until you get tested. That's just the truth, and that's just the fact. But you have to understand that there is a better hope. Because like I've said before, and I quote from the book of Psalms, Psalms chapter number Psalms chapter number 34 verse 19. He says, the Lord God knows how to deliver the righteous from all the afflictions. Your end will be good. There is a hope for you because you have come to truth. You know the truth. So that is my attempt to answer the question on why we are here, because you have to understand that this world is a test, and God tested everybody. The children of Israel, Abraham, he tested his own self in Yehoshua. He tested Satan, the devil Lucifer. He tested the angels. He tested everybody that was in heaven, everybody that's below the heaven in the earth. That means he tested everybody that's under this earth right now in the dome, and even tested people that were underneath it. So this world is a test. So that's the reason why we are here. It's a testing ground to know those who really love God. And that's what he wants. Not just love from you talking and saying, I love him, but talking and walking the walk. So that's just what my answer, that's what I attempted to answer. And I hope it's given you a bit of clarification to know that everything that's happening in this world, happening to you and I, is a test. And some people will not live through it because they'll fail the test. Some will fail it and some will pass. That's just truth. So I hope I did answer that question on why we're here. So I'll now move on to finish up with Caroline Cozy to see if she or if he stands up to the test of the fact that the skeletal structure of a human being cannot be changed after conception, being that he has suffered or claimed to have suffered the klinefelter syndrome disease. So we're going to put up that test and actually see if he does pass the test. Now remember, Caroline Cozy is not under transvestigation. He is not a liar. He's a truthful transgender. We are not saying he's a liar or anything negative. All right, so let's go. So we start off Caroline Cozy with a picture when Caroline Cozy was a man under the name of Barry. If you're looking at my screen right there, that's Caroline Cozy as a dude. Okay, as you can see, it still looks like a dude, but we have some more pictures just to go by, just to see what you think if Caroline Cozy is going to stand up to the test of that person suffering under Klinefelter's fake syndrome, all right, as I call it. Skeletal structure can be changed. The person is still the sex they claim, because if you remember at the start of the video when we explained what the Klinefelter syndrome was, you could actually see that it affects male. So the operative word there, it's male. It doesn't say the person changes to a female. It says the person is male. It's male, a man. All right, so let's go further. Here's Caroline Cozy again when he was Barry, who still is Barry, because the skeletal structure can never change. It doesn't matter the cosmetic surgery you put on. You can see right that he's still a man. And then here is another picture. Now here is the point that we start to show you what is wrong with this picture, that this is still a dude. Now remember, I told you that a woman always has an arch in her back, all right? And that if a man tries to bend his back, the back is going to create weird angles, such as an L. You probably heard me say that before if you're an old sub on the video. Now, looking at Caroline Cozy's back right here, you would notice that he's trying to put an arch in his back, trying to look feminine, all right? But you can see right here, it's creating weird angles of an L shape. Okay? Can you guys notice that? Now, a trick in here's one thing I have to make you guys understand. Now this picture is photoshopped, all right? So when you're doing a transvestigation and you're trying to transvestigate somebody, always look for pictures that don't have plain backgrounds, because plain background means that the pixels have been played with, the picture is being toyed and played with. Okay, so this picture is photoshopped in the first place for it to look this good, okay, because the background is plain. Another picture. Now here's Caroline Cozy. Now you can see right here that this background is not plain. So you're starting to see the contrast of who really the person is, because as you can see here, it has, even though the background looks to be somewhat plain, but it has a mix of colors, and because the person is standing something in like a tiled bathroom or the case. Now what we're looking at here is the hip. Now remember the video that we played earlier. Now the widest point in this hip, as you can see, is right here. That's where the Q angle of a man starts. And here is Caroline Cozy's crotch, right? See where this hip is at? That's where the hip joint is at. With a female, it will be much more lower down here below the crotch. So Caroline Cozy's hip joint is still above the crotch. The widest point right there, as you can see sticking out there, is still above the crotch, showing you that a person with Klinefelter syndrome, the fake Klinefelter syndrome disease they tell you, cannot change to a female. Okay? As you can see right there, the hip is sticking out there above the crotch, showing you where the male hip is at. Another picture. And here's Caroline Cozy again. As you can see, that's the crotch. Where's the widest point right there sticking out? Right here. See that? It's still above the crotch. That's the crotch down there. And the only reason why it looks like it's around there is because his legs are closed up, so it doesn't actually show you where the crotch actually ends. All right, but as you can see, this widest point right here, take a good look right here, right there, my mouse is pointing right there, is above this crotch, above the crotch, showing you that it's male. Even to this other point, the widest point is above the crotch. So Klinefelter disease syndrome cannot change a male to a female or make it have a skeletal structure of a woman. Another picture. Here's again Caroline Cozy. Now what do you notice about the background? It's plain. That means it's been photoshopped to make it have this kind of fine detail. All right, but even then you can still see that the back is still straight. There's no arch in the back. You can see that it's a straight back right into the pelvis, because this is the pelvic area. It's straight down into it. So a person with Klinefelter's syndrome, the skeletal structure is still going to be male. It can't change to a female, no matter the hormones or whatever they take. Another picture. Now, Caroline Cozy again. And here is the widest point in Caroline Cozy's hip right here. See this point right here? Because from here, it's tapering down. This is where the Q angle is starting. See how high the Q angle starts right there? Because it's above the crotch. Above the crotch. Above the crotch. Not below it like a female should be. Above it. Here is the crotch right here. Right here. And this is above it, the widest point, showing you that a man with Klinefelter syndrome cannot change his skeletal structure. Another picture. And here is Caroline Cozy with the Bond girls in the movie For Your Eyes Only. As you can see right here, there's a stark difference between the man over here and the female on my right. As you can see, here's where the Q angle of that female starts, below this crotch. See that right there? The widest point below the crotch. And in Caroline Cozy's, what do you see? Widest point is still above the crotch, showing you that a person with Klinefelter, the fake Klinefelter syndrome that the Vatican has pushed upon the masses to believe can actually make a male change to a female, is not possible. It's all a lie. It's Roger Moore there with all the Bond girls, and here is Caroline Cozy right here. Okay, another picture. This is just an article in which Caroline Cozy was trying to state the fact that it's a woman. No, you're not a woman. You're a transgendered woman. There's a difference. We men don't take drugs to be female. They are born that way. And that is the definition under the classification of being a woman. All right. She said sex change Bond girl in plea judges at Eurocourt. This was way back in the day when, you know, the Vatican was trying to massage the minds of people to accept transgender people as the norm. All right, so let's there is Caroline Cozy on a page of Playboy magazine. So that's why I'm saying you can't make role models of anybody you see in the public print media or TV or anything, because you don't really know who they are. Because I'm very sure Playboy didn't tell anybody that this person was transgendered. All right, and they probably had nude pictures of him up there, and someone was busy fantasizing about a man. All right. Now, as you know, with Playboy magazine, this picture is going to be heavily photoshopped. Plain background. So whatever you see is not real. It's not true. So that's when you're doing your transvestigation. You always have to remember that. When you're picking up pictures to transvestigate, always make sure that the pictures don't have a plain background, because if it has a plain background, that means you can play with the pixels and do every sort of body contouring, and people wouldn't notice that it's the pictures are pixelated that way. Okay, another picture. Now here's Caroline Cozy, still a plain background all the same, but this one didn't do a good job, because as you can see, the widest point and that hip right here is above the crotch. Above the crotch, not below it like it should be for a female, because this is a man. As you can see, the back is forming a weird angle, weird L angle. It's not a C shape but an L angle, and it's still straight because Caroline Cozy is still a man. All right, so remember that. No pictures with plain backgrounds when you're doing your transvestigation. Let's keep going. And here is Caroline Cozy again, still trying to put an arch in that back, but it's still straight. Still straight. Okay, still straight in here. All right, now all the hormones are making it look like a female, but it's not. Okay, don't fall for it. Another picture, it's still trying to put an arch in the back, but like I said, you don't see no C shape in there. All right, it's a straight back still. All right, let me blow it up so you can see. It's still a straight back. There is no C. See that? It's straight in, and from here is the pelvis. Okay, it's had a lot of like surgery done to the body, the contouring and all that stuff to give you the fake hip and illusion of hips and a bosom, but it's not there. All right, it's still a straight back. All right, so Caroline Cozy doesn't pass the test of klinefelters. Here is Caroline Cozy again, and you can know that this one is Photoshop. So I'm just trying to show you the tricks of the trade, because as you can see, it's two pictures on Photoshop. A straight back on this one, and there seems to be an arch on this one because it's been Photoshopped. So that's why when you're looking at pictures, don't worry, don't make sure that the pictures don't have any plain background. Otherwise, what you're gonna get is not gonna be the result you wanted. You're gonna get a fake result. So as you can see right here, this is heavily photoshopped. Even with the pelvic area right here, you can see the way it's turning. This side is straight and this side is curving. It's photoshopped. And even then, the hip is still way above the crotch, the widest point. Even from the way this where he's putting his hands right here, it's still the widest point is still above the crotch, because that's where a man's skew angle starts. All right, so Caroline Cozy doesn't pass the test. So another picture right here, Caroline Cozy again. As you can see, the back is still straight, right, and the widest point and that hip is still above the crotch. That's the crotch. Widest point is still above it. Caroline Cozy doesn't pass the test. So people should not fall for the fact that klinefelter has anything to do with changing a man into a woman. Okay, another picture. Here's just one of the pictures that I picked up from one of the let's say old newspapers in the time of Caroline Cozy, the Vatican trying to massage the people's minds into accepting transgender. It says James Bond girl was a boy, topless Tula hides a sex change secret. Okay, and so we've come to the end of the video, and I hope you learned something so you can understand your world. And I tried to answer the question of why we are here. We are here because we are getting tested. We are in this world. Everything that's happening to us, everything that's happening around you in your world is a test. A test by God Almighty himself to show or to know those who actually love him. Yes, he let the evil get inside this world as a test. Because when you study your Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, the one thing that's consistent through everybody's life in there was the fact that they got tested. All right, so if you learned something, that's great. I'm sorry if it was a long video, but I attempted to answer the question. If you learned something good, subscribe, stay tuned, and I leave you with these words as usual. Always and always, please look with your eyes and see with your brain. Thanks and bye-bye. Remember, Caroline Cozy was not under transvestigation. I have to say that again. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.